6 p.m. on Monday here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ji-hye. And these are the headlines we're following at this hour. President Park Geun-hye calls for North Korea to apologize for the landmine blasts that maimed 2 South Korean soldiers as the two Koreas enter a third night of high-level talks. Evacuees are hoping to resume their daily lives and returning to their homes near the border despite the heightened tensions. Chinese shares plummet, sending shockwaves across Asian markets, including South Korea, already affected by North Korean provocations. More than 24 hours have passed since the two Koreas started their second round of high-level talks aimed at cooling tensions on the peninsula. No word as of yet on the outcome of the discussions, but this morning, President Park Geun-hye held a meeting with her senior secretaries talking tough toward North Korea and its provocations. Despite the marathon talks, for details, let's connect to our presidential office correspondent Choi You-sun. You-sun, what messages did the president deliver today?
Ji-hye, President Park has clearly stated that the most important issue on the two Koreas' agenda is getting the North to apologize for its recent landmine attack in the Demilitarized Zone. And unless that is achieved, she said Seoul will continue its anti-Pyongyang broadcast that resumed after the DMZ attack. While Pyongyang denies responsibility for the attack, Pyongyang is reported to have demanded that Seoul stop its propaganda broadcast and called it an insult to the North's leader, Kim Jong-un. The August 4th incident left 2 South Korean soldiers seriously injured, escalating tensions that led to the two Koreas exchanging of artillery fire last week. The South Korean president added that her government will not back down to Pyongyang's increasing threats and that the vicious cycle of North Korea's provocation, followed by tensions, incentives, then another provocation, must stop once and for all. She said Seoul will strongly respond to any type of provocation by Pyongyang, but is open to joining hands with its northern neighbor for peace and prosperity. Ji-hye?
So it does appear the two-track policy remains intact. Do we know if there's been any progress made in these marathon talks?
Well, officials here in Seoul remain tight-lipped as any unconfirmed leaks could have a negative effect on the ongoing negotiations. The presidential office is also known to be keeping a close watch on the situation. Now, aside from the DMZ issue, the two sides are expected to have exchanged views on non-military issues such as resuming the reunions of families separated by the Korean War. It's likely North Korea has urged the South to stop its annual military exercises with the U.S., which it considers a war game, and sought ways to resume inter-Korean tourism and economic projects that were suspended after North's series of provocations. Now, it's difficult to predict whether the talks will bring about a substantial outcome, but I should point out that the North has yet to apologize for its torpedoing of the South Korean warship Cheonan and the shelling of the South's Yeonpyeong-do Island back in 2010, which combined claimed the lives of 50 South Koreans. But the fact that they're continuing talks for the third straight day shows both sides' commitment to resolving the situation. Whether they will strike a deal today or call another adjournment, we'll have to wait and see. Well, that's all I have for now. This was Choi You-sun reporting on the second round of inter-Korean high-level talks.
Thanks for that report, You-sun. We now go over to our Kim Hyun-bin at Seoul's Defense Ministry. Hyun-bin, North Korea has deployed its main infiltration units and military hardware to the front lines. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, we've been seeing some unusual and fairly concerning military movement north of the border for the past 24 hours. And military officials here say North Korea has deployed some air cushion landing craft and dozens of submarines and special forces units to the front line. And military sources in the south say around 20 amphibious landing craft believed to be transporting special forces as well left their home base and are now just 50 to 60 kilometers north of the northern limit line. On top of that, 50 submarines, about 70% of North Korea's entire fleet, are no longer at port. Their location is unknown as they haven't been detected on any of South Korea's radar systems. The sheer number of submarines deployed has not been this great since the Korean War. Now, officials say the military movements are likely intended to pressure Seoul into meeting some of its demands at the high-level talks, especially shutting off the propaganda loudspeakers at the border.
The news of so many submarines being deployed is rather alarming. Hyunbin, what plans have the South Korean military put in place to deal with this submarine deployment?
Well, South Korea and the U.S. are taking this matter very seriously, as you imagine, and the allies have deployed anti-submarine helicopters, destroyers, smaller warships known as convoys near the maritime border. In fact, we heard a couple hours ago that South Korea was deploying all of its destroyers and convoys. On top of the marine power, heavy artillery and multiple rocket launchers are positioned to strike in case North Korea tries to launch an attack of some sort. As we are still on high alert, South Korean troops are in full combat here and are carrying live ammunition. The Defense Ministry also says Seoul and Washington are reviewing plans to deploy B-52, B-2 stealth bombers and nuclear submarines to the Korean peninsula to increase pressure and better prepare for threats from the north. The ministry says the deployment is intended to display South Korea's military might and war readiness to deter future North Korean provocations. The two allies remain on the second highest level of the first 5-level WatchCon threat alert system. WatchCon Level 2 is issued if signs of a critical threat are detected. The Defense Ministry says South Korea and the United States are utilizing their full arsenal of reconnaissance satellites, planes, and other military assets at this time. Now, I'll keep you updated on the latest developments. This has been Kim Hyun-bin reporting live from the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul.
All right, Hyun-bin, we appreciate that. And now residents living near the border have been evacuated to shelters as a precautionary measure. Our Connie Kim is standing by at an emergency shelter in Yeoncheon. Connie, it must be a stressful time for the local residents. How are they coping?
Ji-hye, there are fewer than 5 residents inside the shelter right now. Around 20 people have spent the night here, but many of them have returned back to their daily lives. Now, this is because many of the residents here are farmers and they're keen to return to work as soon as possible. And now, as for those still inside the shelter, they are watching TV, watching the news, and hoping for a positive outcome. Televisions, internet access, and air conditioning have been set up inside the shelter for the evacuees. They're also being provided with food and water for the duration of their stay. Now, Yeoncheon, this area is considered extra sensitive due to the North Korean shelling last week targeting South Korea's propaganda loudspeakers. However, the area right now remains relatively calm for now, as there have been no additional provocations. Paju, Gyeonggi-do Province, and Hwacheon in Gangwon-do Province have also ordered residents to evacuate to shelters. Reporting live from Yeoncheon, this has been Connie Kim.
Thanks, Connie, for that. Despite the tension, young South Korean soldiers are displaying their bravery, choosing to extend their military service. The Korean Army said Monday that 50 soldiers nearing discharge have decided to stay enlisted until the ongoing friction diffuses. Even those already discharged are voicing their willingness to return to service in the name of defending their country. Patriotic photos and posts are trending heavily on social media. As the two Koreas technically remain in a state of war, South Korean men aged between 18 and 35 are required to serve about 2 years of mandatory military service. Leaders of South Korea's rival parties welcomed the news of high-level talks between the two Koreas that is currently ongoing and urged more inter-Korean cooperation. Our Ji Myung-gil has the details.
The ruling Saenuri Party emphasized that national security was the top priority in state affairs and said dialogue was the only answer to diffusing tensions on the Korean peninsula.
We must adopt a posture that ensures strong national security while showing more flexibility for talks. We should show strong determination and strive to break the vicious cycle of the North's provocations.
The ruling bloc's chief added that the only way to deter future provocations from the North was to sternly retaliate to its threats and take strong punitive measures. Chairman Kim thanked the residents in the frontline areas for their composure and cooperation during the heightened tensions. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy also hailed the talks between the two Koreas and suggested they be held on a regular basis.
I support the government's efforts to hold the talks after accepting our party's suggestion for high-level talks. We should use this momentum to improve relations with the North.
Moon said although the high-level talks may not produce significant results, he hoped it would provide a platform to revamp stalled inter-Korean relations. The MPAD chief added that the North should apologize and take full responsibility for the latest provocations, including its promise to prevent the recurrence of such incidents in the future. Kim Young-git, Arirang News.
South Korea's main stock market fell to its lowest level in 2 years amid global economic uncertainties and military threats from North Korea, of course. Our Kim Min-ji has more.
Korea's benchmark Kospi shed 2.47% to close trading at just under 1830, extending losses for the sixth straight day. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also finished more than 2% lower at 613. The downward streak comes on the back of uncertainties, including the slowdown in China and escalating tensions between the two Koreas. Experts say it will be hard for the local market to find momentum for the time being.
Negative sentiment among investors towards the Chinese market will not fade easily. The recent devaluation of the yuan has raised distrust in the Chinese economy, and this in turn will keep foreign investors out of Korea.
China's market experienced another terrible day of trading on Monday. The Shanghai Composite closed down 8.49%, marking the biggest fall in 8 years and erasing all of its gains for the year. This follows a loss of more than 10% last week. The slowdown in China's economy has also put pressure on the Korean won. The local currency closed at 1,199 won against the US dollar, marking the lowest level in nearly 5 years. The Bank of Korea has vowed to come up with measures to stabilize South Korea's financial markets and closely monitor the situation. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, after much speculation, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will not travel to China next month. Citing Abe's schedule in Parliament, Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga confirmed Monday that the Japanese leader does not plan to visit Beijing during the period shortly before or after China's war victory celebrations. President Park Geun-hye has confirmed that she will attend the celebrations on September 3rd. Suga said Japan will continue to seek opportunities for a summit between Abe and Chinese President Xi Jinping. It would have marked the two leaders' third summit meeting. Criticism is rising within Japan following Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's war end anniversary statement earlier this month, which failed to offer a clear apology for the country's colonial rule and past aggression before and during World War II. Osaka City Mayor Toru Hashimoto said on Sunday that Japan must clearly express feelings of remorse and apology to Korea and China for its history of invasion. The Japanese daily Sankei Shimbun reports that Hashimoto said Japanese politicians should continue to offer apologies, adding that it was not acceptable for the Abe administration to try and justify Japan's past wartime atrocities. Korean language educators worldwide have gathered for the annual World Korean Educators Conference, which kicked off today. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
What if Korean was one of the most prominent languages spoken around the world? And how could this be realized? These are questions that lie in the hearts and minds of educators gathered at the 7th Annual World Korean Educators Conference, which kicked off on Monday.
Some 180 educators from different branches of the King Sejong Institute are participating in the 3-day event to share their teaching experiences that may be critical to improving the quality of Korean education worldwide.
Whether for fun, influenced by the so-called Korean wave or Hallyu, or something more practical like applying for a job, we want to be able to cater to all of the reasons students would want to learn the Korean language. This event provides an opportunity for educators to share their valuable experience.
For some, learning the Korean language is more than just a hobby. It is a step closer to achieving the so-called Korean dream and building a better future.
지금 방글라데시에서 한국어를 배우려는 사람은 많은데, 근데 학교에 와서 시간과 돈을 들여서 배우려는 사람은 많지 않아요. 왜냐하면 어차피 한국어 오히려는 사람 올 관심이 있는데 근데 누구나 올 수가 없어요. 제 생각에 방글라데시에 있는 한국 기업들이 많아요. 그 기업주들이 좀 저희를 도와주면 아마 방글라데시에서 한국어가 더 보급이 더 쉬울 거예요.
The state-run King Sejong Institute was established in 2007 and currently has around 140 branches in 54 countries. Kim Ji-hye, Arirang News.
That brings us to the end of our newscast. More updates coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned and goodbye for now.